Cancer is not supposed to be contagious. A tumor begins when an animal's own cells mutate, escape the body's controls, and start multiplying. Those cells might spread through the body, but they normally die with their host. Now scientists have discovered a shocking exception in wild catfish. The cancer cells themselves appear to be moving from one fish to another, surviving as a separate lineage and behaving less like an ordinary tumor and more like a living parasite. The discovery began in Lake Memphremagog, a large body of water crossing the border between Vermont in the United States and Quebec in Canada. Since 2012, anglers and wildlife biologists had reported brown bullhead catfish with strange raised black patches covering parts of their skin. The lesions became increasingly common. By 2014, researchers estimated that almost 1 in 3 of the examined fish showed signs of the disease. At first, the obvious suspects were pollution, a virus or another infectious pathogen. Brown bullheads spend much of their lives close to the muddy bottom of lakes, where contaminants can accumulate. They are also used as indicators of environmental health, so an outbreak of skin disease could have signaled a larger problem in the ecosystem. But tests failed to reveal a convincing virus, and the evidence did not fit the idea of a conventional infection. When researchers examined the tissue, they discovered that the black growths were melanoma. In humans, melanoma is strongly associated with ultraviolet radiation from sunlight. That made the diagnosis particularly strange because brown bullheads are bottom-dwelling fish that often live in murky water. Scientists wanted to know whether something in the environment was independently causing the same cancer in many different fish. To find out, the team sequenced DNA from the tumors and compared it with DNA taken from healthy tissue in the same animals. In a normal cancer, the tumor cells should still be genetically closest to the animal in which they developed. They are altered versions of that animal's own cells. Instead, the researchers found that tumors collected from different fish were far more closely related to one another than they were to their supposed hosts. The cancer cells shared hundreds of thousands of genetic variants that were not present in the healthy tissue of the infected fish. That pattern is extremely difficult to explain if each tumor developed independently. The strongest explanation is that the black growths all descended from one original cancer. At some point, a cell inside a single catfish became malignant. But instead of dying when that fish died, descendants of that cell escaped, entered other fish, and continued multiplying. This means the cancer has effectively become a transmissible organism. The infected fish are not simply catching a virus that later causes cancer. They are catching the cancer cells themselves. A living piece of one ancient tumor is passing through multiple animals, using each new body as another environment in which to survive. Researchers still do not know exactly how the cells move between fish. One possibility involves spawning. The disease appears mainly in larger, sexually mature animals. During the breeding season, brown bullheads gather closely in shallow water and may rub against or injure one another. If tumor tissue breaks away from one animal and enters an open wound on another, living cancer cells might gain direct access to the new host. Their habitat could offer another route. Brown bullheads lack scales and spend considerable time touching lake sediment. If cancer cells can survive temporarily outside a fish, muddy lake bottoms might act as reservoirs. Cells shed by an infected animal could remain in the environment until they contact another vulnerable fish. For now, both routes remain hypotheses, and scientists need more field observations and laboratory experiments to determine what is actually happening. The discovery is remarkable because foreign cells are normally rejected by the immune system. If cells from another individual enter your body, immune defenses usually recognize them as outsiders and destroy them. This is why people who receive transplanted organs need medication that suppresses immune rejection. A transmissible cancer must overcome this protective barrier every time it enters a new host. The catfish tumor may carry biological tricks that help it hide from immune detection. The fish population might also have genetic similarities that make it harder for individuals to distinguish the cancer's cells from their own. Environmental stress, hormones associated with reproduction, or exposure to certain substances could further weaken immune protection. The study found elevated arsenic levels in the cancer cells, and the geographical pattern of affected fish appears to overlap with areas where naturally occurring arsenic is found in surrounding soils. That does not prove arsenic created the transmissible cancer, but it gives researchers another clue to investigate. This is the first confirmed transmissible cancer found in a freshwater fish, but it is not the first cancer known to spread between animals. One of the most famous examples affects Tasmanian devils. These animals frequently bite one another around the face during feeding and mating. Living tumor cells can pass through those wounds, producing aggressive facial growths that have devastated wild populations. Dogs carry another ancient contagious cancer known as canine transmissible venereal tumor. It usually spreads during mating. Genetic studies suggest that every tumor in the lineage descends from a dog that lived thousands of years ago. The original animal is long dead, but its cancer cells continue to survive inside dogs around the world. In a strange biological sense, that tumor has outlived the organism that created it by an extraordinary amount of time. Transmissible cancers have also been identified in several marine bivalves, including clams, mussels, and cockles. In those animals, cancerous cells can enter seawater and reach new hosts without direct physical contact. Some lineages have even crossed between closely related species. These discoveries suggested that aquatic environments might make cancer transmission easier because living cells can be carried through water. The catfish finding strengthens that possibility. Until now, scientists knew of contagious cancers in mammals and marine shellfish, but not in freshwater vertebrates. A cancer lineage surviving in fish suggests that the phenomenon can emerge across a much wider range of environments and animal biology than previously assumed. It also raises a disturbing question. Are transmissible cancers genuinely rare, or have scientists simply failed to recognize them? A group of animals with similar-looking tumors might appear to be suffering from pollution, viruses, or a shared genetic weakness. Without comparing the genomes of tumor cells and their hosts, researchers could easily miss evidence that the same cancer is moving through the population. There may even be historical hints that the catfish disease is much older than the current investigation. In 1852, writer and naturalist Henry David Thoreau described a catfish with a large velvet black patch around one of its fins. 6 years later, he recorded another fish with an inky black disease covering almost half its head. Those observations do not prove that Thoreau saw the same transmissible melanoma, but the resemblance is strong enough that scientists are now examining rivers and ponds in Massachusetts. If the cancer has existed for more than a century, it may have traveled quietly through fish populations for generations before modern genetic tools revealed its true nature. Researchers now need to determine where the lineage originated, how far it has spread, and whether it is harming the long-term survival of brown bullheads or affecting the wider ecosystem. There is no evidence that this fish cancer poses a danger to humans. Cancer cells from a catfish are biologically foreign, and the human immune system would be expected to destroy them rapidly. Human-to-human transmission of cancer has occurred in exceptionally rare situations, including organ transplantation, transfer between a mother and fetus, and unusual surgical accidents. However, no naturally spreading human cancer epidemic like those seen in some animal species has ever been observed. The real importance of this discovery lies in what it teaches us about cancer itself. We usually think of cancer as a rebellion within one body. A cell abandons cooperation, multiplies uncontrollably, and damages the organism that produced it. Transmissible cancer goes one step further. It escapes its original body and becomes an evolving cellular lineage capable of invading new animals. That makes it both a cancer and something resembling a parasite. It must survive outside its first host, avoid immune destruction, find new tissue, and adapt as conditions change. Studying how these cells cross boundaries that normally keep cancers trapped inside one individual could reveal new information about immune evasion, tumor evolution, and metastasis. Somewhere in the past, one ordinary cell inside one ordinary catfish began dividing incorrectly. That event should have ended with a single animal. Instead, its descendants may still be alive today, moving through lakes and growing inside fish they have never genetically belonged to. Scientists did not just discover a new fish disease. They found a cancer that appears to have crossed the line between tumor and transmissible life form. And if researchers are right that similar cancers are hiding unnoticed in nature, this catfish may be only the first clue to an entire biological world we have barely begun to see.